The champagne was still fizzing on my tongue when I walked into our penthouse, riding high on the promotion to senior creative director. 34 years old, and I'd just landed the corner office at Madison and Associates. Not bad for a kid from Queens whose father fixed elevators for a living. Jane was waiting in our living room, designer heels clicking against the marble as she paced. The city sparkled behind her through floor-to-ceiling windows, but her expression could have frozen the Hudson. "We need to talk, David." I loosened my tie, already sensing trouble. "Can't it wait? I just had the best day of my—" "About your friends." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. I'd made the mistake of bringing Jake, Tommy, Mike, and Alex to a few industry events lately. Apparently, this was a capital offense in Jane's world of Manhattan socialites. "What about them?" "They're embarrassing me." She stopped pacing, fixing me with those ice-blue eyes that had first captivated me 3 years ago. "Do you know what Miranda Ashworth said at the Whitmore Gala? She asked if you were bringing your little construction worker friend to the charity auction next month." I bit back my first response. Mike Rodriguez had built half the luxury developments these people lived in, but pointing that out would only make things worse. "Mike's a good guy, Tori. They all are." "That's not the point." Her voice rose an octave. "I'm trying to build something here, my career, our social standing, our future, and you're dragging us down with your college buddies and their beer league mentality. These guys have had my back since—" "Since when? Since before you mattered? Since before you had anything worth protecting?" She moved closer, her perfume mixing with the scent of her barely contained fury. "I need to know you're serious about us, David, about our life together." Here it comes, I thought. The ultimatum. She'd been building to this for months. "Choose." "Choose what?" "Between them and me." Jane's manicured finger pointed toward the door, as if my friends were standing right there. "Because I won't be humiliated anymore. I won't watch you throw away everything we've built for some misguided loyalty to people who don't even belong in our world." I stared at her for a long moment, really seeing her for the first time in months. The perfectly styled blonde hair, the designer dress that cost more than most people's monthly salary, the cold calculation behind those beautiful eyes. When had she become this person? Or had I just been too blind to see it before? "I'll think about it," I said quietly. Wrong answer. Her face flushed red, and for a second, her carefully constructed mask slipped. What I uncovered beneath it sent a chill straight through me. "Think about it." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "David, I'm offering you a chance to be part of something bigger than your little Queen's fantasy. These people, they're not your friends. They're anchors." Saturday morning, I sat in my restored '69 Mustang outside Tommy's bar in Astoria, engine purring as I made phone calls. Jane was at her yoga class, or at least that's what she'd told me. Lately, I'd started wondering about a lot of the things she told me. "Montana?" Jake's voice crackled through the Bluetooth. "Seriously? Luxury cabin, fully stocked bar, fishing, poker, the works. I'm thinking we leave Thursday, back Sunday night." This about Jane's ultimatum? Word traveled fast in our group. Maybe. Or maybe I just want to spend time with my friends before I'm not allowed to have any. Jake was quiet for a moment. "David, there's something we need to talk about, all of us. Montana might be perfect." Something in his tone made my stomach clench. What kind of something? The kind that's better discussed in person, away from complications. I ended the call and stared at Tommy's bar. Through the window, I could see him wiping down glasses, preparing for the lunch crowd. These guys had been my anchors through college, through my father's death, through the lean years when I was building my career from nothing. Jane called them anchors like it was a bad thing. Maybe she was right. Maybe anchors were exactly what I needed. My phone buzzed. Text from Jane. "Out with the girls today. Don't wait up." The girls. Right. I'd stopped keeping track of all her mysterious social commitments. Always vague, always last minute, always with people I'd never met. I spent the next 2 hours planning the most epic guy's trip in history. If Jane wanted me to choose, I'd show her exactly what she was asking me to give up. The Montana cabin sat on 20 acres of pristine wilderness, far enough from civilization that Jane's increasingly frantic calls went straight to voicemail. I'd been posting photos all weekend. Us fishing at dawn, Alex's terrible attempt at campfire cooking, Mike building what he called the Taj Mahal of fire pits. Each post was a little declaration of independence. Sunday night, we sat around that fire pit with expensive whiskey and cheap poker chips. I was up $40 and feeling better than I had in months when Jake cleared his throat. "We need to talk about Jane." The relaxed atmosphere evaporated. Tommy poked at the fire with a stick, avoiding my eyes. Alex closed his laptop slowly. Mike cracked his knuckles, which he only did when he was about to deliver bad news. "What about her?" "Dave." Jake pulled out his phone, swiped to a photo. "I was shooting an event at the Meridian Club last month. Corporate thing for some ad agency." He handed me the phone. The photo showed Jane at a corner table, leaning close to a man I recognized immediately. Harrison Whitmore III, senior partner at Whitmore and Partners, our biggest competitor. She was laughing at something he'd said, her hand resting on his arm in a way that made my chest tight. "Could be innocent," I said, though my voice sounded hollow even to me. "Could be," Tommy agreed. "Except I've seen them together 3 times in the last 2 months. Different restaurants, always discreet tables, always very comfortable with each other." Alex opened his laptop again. I did some digging. Whitmore has a pattern. Married employees at rival agencies, gets close to their spouses, extracts information, 3 times in the past 5 years. "You're saying Jane's cheating with Harrison Whitmore to steal company secrets?" "I'm saying we found hotel receipts," Mike said quietly. "Thursday afternoons at the plaza. Same day Jane told you she had those mysterious client meetings." The whiskey turned to acid in my stomach. "How long have you guys known?" "We wanted to be sure," Jake said. "We've been watching, documenting, trying to figure out how deep this goes." Tommy threw his stick into the fire, sending sparks into the night sky. "It goes deeper than just an affair, Dave. They're planning something." "What kind of something?" Alex turned his laptop screen toward me. Emails, credit card statements, phone records. "Harrison's done this before. He doesn't just steal information, he destroys careers, makes sure his targets can never threaten him professionally." "And you think Jane's helping him target me?" "I think Jane's been feeding him your strategies for months. The Hartwell campaign you've been developing? Whitmore pitched something remarkably similar to them last week." The pieces started falling into place. Late-night phone calls Jane said were with clients. Her sudden interest in my work projects. The way she'd been subtly undermining my confidence, making me second-guess decisions that had always come naturally. "There's more," Mike said. "She's been telling people you've been difficult lately. Drinking too much, losing your temper, making poor decisions." "I don't drink too much. We know that. But she's building a narrative, setting you up to look unstable when they make their move." I stared into the fire, watching my entire life reorganize itself around this new reality. The woman I'd planned to marry, the woman who shared my bed every night, had been systematically destroying me from the inside. "What's their endgame? Best guess?" Alex pulled up another screen. "They steal your biggest client, damage your reputation enough that Madison and Associates has to let you go, and then Jane divorces you while you're at your lowest point. Clean, efficient, profitable." "Except now we know," Jake said, "which means we can fight back." I looked around the fire at these 4 men, a photographer, a bar owner, a construction foreman, and a tech entrepreneur. Jane had dismissed them as lowbrow anchors who didn't belong in our world, but they'd uncovered a conspiracy that could have destroyed everything I'd spent 10 years building. "What do you have in mind?" Tommy smiled, and it wasn't entirely pleasant. "Depends how badly you want them to pay." We drove back to the city in convoy, my Mustang leading 3 other cars through the pre-dawn darkness. I'd called in sick to work. something I hadn't done in 2 years, and Jane thought I was still in Montana. Time to see what my loving fiancée did when she thought she had the house to herself. From a coffee shop across the street, I watched through telephoto lens as Harrison Whitmore III's black Mercedes pulled up to my building. He was inside for 3 hours. 3 hours in the home I'd worked 60-hour weeks to afford, with the woman who'd convinced me she loved me for who I was, not what I could provide. Jake snapped photos from 6 different angles. Alex tracked the license plate. Mike noted the timestamps. Tommy bought everyone coffee and donuts like we were running surveillance on a construction site instead of documenting the destruction of my marriage. They're not even trying to hide it anymore, Jake muttered, adjusting his camera settings. Look at that. He's got his hand on her back as they walk to the elevator. My phone buzzed. Text from Jane. Missing you. Can't wait for you to get home tomorrow. Cold, Tommy observed, reading over my shoulder, ice cold. We followed them to lunch at an upscale restaurant in Midtown. Through the window, I watched Jane lean across the table, whispering something that made Harrison laugh. She was animated, gesturing with her hands, more alive than I'd seen her in months. She's happy, I realized. She's actually happy with him. Some people get off on deception, Alex said, typing notes on his laptop. The thrill of getting away with it, of being smarter than everyone else. Or maybe, Mike suggested, she's just relieved to be with someone from her own world, someone who doesn't need to be trained or improved or fixed. That stung, but it also clarified things. Jane hadn't fallen out of love with me. She'd never been in love with me to begin with. I'd been a project, a fixer-upper with good earning potential and social climbing possibilities. When that wasn't enough anymore, she'd found someone who already fit her vision of success. My phone rang. Jane. Hey baby, how's Montana? Amazing, I lied, watching her through the restaurant window as she spoke. Really good to get away from everything. I bet. Listen, I've been thinking about our conversation the other night. On the other side of the glass, she was smiling at Harrison while talking to me. Professional-level multitasking. Oh yeah, maybe I was too harsh. Your friends aren't terrible people, they're just different from what I'm used to. Maybe we can find some middle ground when you get back. Translation? The plan was moving to the next phase, and she needed me compliant and unsuspecting. That sounds great, Tori. I love you. Love you too. She hung up immediately and returned her attention to Harrison, who was already signaling for the check. They had places to be, plans to execute, a life to destroy, and they thought they were so much smarter than the guy from Queens with the lowbrow friends. Time to show them how wrong they were. Tuesday night, I sat in the dark in my own living room, waiting. Jane thought I was still in Montana until tomorrow, but I'd driven back after confirming she'd be out late at another mysterious client dinner. The apartment felt different now, like a crime scene where I was both the victim and the detective. At 11:47 p.m., I heard her key in the lock. She moved quietly through the apartment, heels clicking softly on marble as she headed toward the bedroom. I waited until I heard the shower start, then followed. Her purse sat on the dresser, designer leather worth more than my first car. Inside, I found what I was looking for. A second phone. Burner device, probably Harrison's idea. The text messages told the whole story. David suspicious? From Harrison. No, still thinks I'm upset about his friends, playing hurt and reconciliatory. He'll do anything to fix things now. Good. Timeline moved up. Hartwell meeting Thursday. I'll get the presentation files tonight. His laptop password is still Mustang 69. Men are so predictable. After Thursday, we won't need to pretend anymore. You sure you can handle his reaction? Please, I've been handling David Sterling for 3 years. He's not as smart as he thinks. I photographed every message, then put the phone back exactly where I'd found it. In the bathroom, Jane was humming, actually humming, while she washed off the scent of another man. The laptop was exactly where she'd said it would be, sitting open on my home office desk. She'd been right about the password, too. I changed a few critical files in my Hartwell presentation, subtle alterations that would make Whitmore's stolen version obviously derivative if they tried to present it. Then I called Alex. I need you to crash their presentation, I said quietly. How badly? Biblical, Old Testament badly. Consider it done. Thursday afternoon, I sat in the Hartwell Industries conference room, watching Harrison Whitmore III sweat through his stolen presentation. Thanks to Alex's modifications, every slide that should have shown market research instead displayed photos of Harrison and Jane together, hotel receipts, romantic text messages, financial records showing payments from Whitmore and partners to Jane's personal account. What the hell is this? Harrison stammered, frantically clicking his remote. This, I said, standing up, is what happens when you underestimate someone with better friends than you'll ever have. The Hartwell executives sat in stunned silence as slide after slide revealed the scope of the conspiracy. Phone recordings. Alex had taught me some interesting things about digital surveillance, credit card statements showing payments for hotel rooms, email exchanges discussing the timeline for my professional destruction. Harrison's face cycled through confusion, panic, and finally cold fury. You son of a bitch. You have no idea who you're messing with. Harrison Whitmore III, I said, noting how his perfectly styled hair was starting to stick to his forehead. Trust fund baby, yacht club member, serial manipulator of other men's wives. Did I miss anything? This is harassment. Corporate espionage. Funny, that's exactly what I was going to say about you. The Hartwell people were taking notes now, clearly documenting everything for their legal department. Harrison's reputation in the industry, built over 15 years, was evaporating in real time. The presentation's over, I announced. Hartwell Industries, you have my apologies for this circus. You'll have a clean proposal from Madison and Associates by end of business tomorrow. Harrison, tell Jane I'll see her at home. I walked out of that conference room feeling lighter than I had in months. Phase 1 complete. Now for the main event. Jane was pacing in our living room when I got home, her perfect composure finally cracking. She'd clearly gotten the call from Harrison about the afternoon's disaster. How could you? She demanded as soon as I walked through the door. How could I what? Defend myself against the woman who's been systematically destroying my life for 6 months. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I pulled out the burner phone I'd lifted from her purse. You and Harrison have been planning this for months. The affair, the corporate espionage, the character assassination. What I don't understand is why. Jane's face went through several expressions before settling on defiant anger. Because you're not enough, David. You were never enough. Do you know what it's like being married to someone who thinks a restored Mustang is the height of sophistication? Who brings construction workers to charity galas? Those construction workers saved my ass today, along with a photographer, a bar owner, and a tech entrepreneur. Funny how the people you dismissed as lowbrow turned out to be the only ones worth trusting. Your little friends can't protect you from this. She moved toward the window, looking down at the street 20 floors below. Harrison has connections you can't imagine. Money, influence, power. We can destroy you so completely that... That what? I'll end up back where I started? I laughed, and it felt good. Tori, I built everything I have from nothing. If I have to build it again, at least this time I'll know which people are actually on my side. She spun around, and for the first time since I'd known her, Jane looked genuinely afraid. You can't just walk away from this, from us, from everything we built together. We didn't build anything together. You built a lie, and I was too stupid to see it. My phone buzzed. Text from Jake. News crews outside Whitmore building. Alex's leak worked perfectly. I showed Jane the message. Harrison's probably dealing with reporters right about now. Seems someone sent evidence of his pattern of corporate espionage to every major business publication in the city. Jane's composure finally shattered completely. She sank onto the leather couch, the one she'd insisted we buy because it matched her vision of sophisticated living, and put her head in her hands. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now? Now you live with the choices you made. Harrison's career is over. Yours probably is too once word spreads about your role in this. As for us... I looked around the penthouse apartment, at all the expensive things that had never felt like home, at the woman who'd convinced me love meant changing everything about myself. There is no us. There never really was. I walked toward the door, keys to the Mustang in my hand. Behind me, Jane was saying something, pleading, threatening. I couldn't tell which and didn't care anymore. The elevator doors closed on that life, and I descended toward street level where my real friends were waiting, where my real life could finally begin again. The choice, it turned out, had been easy after all. After all.